Okay. Welcome everybody. I actually started, but we weren't live, so we're going to re-enter the plane of imagination together, standing on the land with the sky above and the sea that surrounds. I call on the elements of fire, air, earth, and water. As we enter into this plane together, where the infinite source of creativity emerges from in all its forms. So we'll raise the flag and let us begin. So thank you for joining us here in the Reglow space. This is part 13 in Grandmother's Velvet Garden, where we're working with our head form pipple to create a mask that is Grandmother's Velvet Garden. And so as you listen, anything that I say as I am narrating can be used or can be applied or seen or perceived as an analogy to something that you're experiencing in your life at any given moment in time, related to anything that comes to mind as you see and as you intuitively process things. So if anything comes up for you in your memory, in your mind's eye, even in your physical environment in this plane, it can be any association or memory that it evokes can be a part of what we're working through in terms of reweaving our narrative based on our real experience and what's true for us in that experience. And so I'm going to cut this because there's a hole in it, and I want to just to know and remember that this is the length, this is the longest length of the center. And so, looking with Pipple here, seeing each other, witnessing each other, I took a sip of my coffee, a couple sips, and now I'm thinking about the parts that need to be stitched together now, which are so Grandmother's Velvet Garden is currently in 3 parts, so it has 3 elements that we're bringing together: the veil that has 2 layers, 2 overlapping layers, and a flower and roots. We have a face mask, which is a layer of silk and a layer of rayon bound with the piece of red velvet from the velvet jacket of my childhood. And we have, thirdly, the headband that is what the ears are connected to and what tucks under the chin. So, and then it also has this little green beard here. So we need to join these three parts together. We have our power button. Joining these three parts together is something that we're working towards, and I think that first it will be good to start with this lower part, because the veil can be kind of sticky in terms of just something to have to work around because of the stiffness of the netting, all the edges poking out. It needs to have a full, we'll attach that after. It needs to have like full attention. And so before we do that, we're going to connect this. And so just want to center both sides of this face mask. And think about how is this going to join here. It's like it feels like there are these pleats, that these gathers are turning into pleats. And really, it's just gathered in kind of this center area. And so is the headband tucks under the chin. Oh, we see here. Okay, Pipple's on the table now, but we see that where the green is that the screen of the headband, I do not really want it to go past where the green of the face mask is. And I wonder about like if we see there being like a clear shape on the face, shape for how this material is going to wrap around the face. So coming straight down from where that pin is, we see where that's landing, and then the shaping here. Becomes what is held here. So we have all the areas tucked under Pipple's chin, and now we can see where to sew this part down, where to sew the headband down to the mask. I'm thinking about how to really do this, and it's like, feels like it's gonna be first joining first making a joining seam and then coming around and finishing this edge off. And at the same time, maybe I can finish off the inside seam too. just pinning it for now. To Pipple, but we will need to move the mask away from Pipple so that we can stitch the velvet garden. So now that I have all those parts held in place, I can remove these inside tacks, and now I can start. Well, and I can also remove the pin holding the mask. Just we're releasing all the pins that hold the headband and the mask together from Pipple, and then joining the headband and the mask together with the pins. Okay. This is what we have so far. So we're going to come over to the ironing board. Identifying where the center is, because I think that we need to adjust some of these pleats happening. It's interesting because even when I line up these inside pleats, they're not lining up with the center. So perhaps the center of the ribbing is the headband and the silk is the face mask. So maybe they're just not lining up on here. As being symmetrical. So we're finding the center. We found the center by folding in half our mask, and now how does it lay? Does okay, that seems better. Should we put our mask on Pipple just to make sure? I think it's okay. Take a sip of water. I think that this mask kind of looks like a diaper, like a green diaper. And then that makes me think of grandmother's velvet garden and like how my grandma loved to compost. And she had such an amazing compost. And yeah. So what color should we use here? Purple? We're going with purple. And this needle seems to be like really, it was like not a smooth needle. It felt very matte, and I'm not sure why. So zoom in here, see what we're doing. So we have our pins. So what we're going to do is first go around and sew on the edge where the ribbing is folded, and then where it's meeting the silk, and we're going to stitch along that line, and then afterwards we're going to turn this under, this outer edge, we're going to turn that under. We're going to see what it's like to also turn this under. So let's do that. And so here, the red is where is tucked into the corner of where we have our little mitered area. And so we're going to anchor our knot into the material. And leaving our tails tucked and trimming our tails. Knotting it twice. And then here we go. Moving through where the miter is close to the material. Making very tiny stitches along the way. teeny tiny stitches. Teeny tiny stitches. Na 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 na. So, as we stitch along here, we're feeling very slow in our movements. And so I'm thinking about this edge of the ribbing. I'm also thinking about the current discomfort of my eyeball, of my left, well, not my eyeball, but my left eyelid. And I've been doing heat compresses on it. It seems to have a sty in it, but it will be gone soon. And so when I think about the sty, I'm reminded to be reflective within myself before I start allowing myself to be irritated with anything else. And so as we move along here with these tiny stitches, I feel grateful for my vision, that I can still see in the wonder of existence. And thinking about the fire in the water, the transformation, and then the soothing pulse of the ocean that continues to be there. And so coming around in relation to this mask or purple double thread, is holding in place the face mask and this band. And hold on a second. And so I'm gonna see if it works, because I don't like having to bend over to do the work. So I got a chair, I'm sitting on the chair now. And I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And my back is straight, so that's good. So stitching around like the jawline. Remembering to take deep breaths into all parts of our body, all aspects of our being. Especially the parts we try to suppress. Because we want to be accepted. But it's up to us to accept ourselves. No one else can do that for you. And accepting where we are in this moment, on this Thursday morning. So I'm looking at this ribbing, and it's definitely not a tight weave. But it brings softness and comfort. And so the silk is going to be the tight weave that is the main mask. And the ribbing is there to give ease and flexibility. And so these two parts are joining together. With the tiny purple stitch of wonder. And we can reflect on where we're at in our journey, and the ridges of the flexible comfort. The ribbing looks like it's a two pearl, 2 knit pattern. Two pearl, 2 knit. So we take our pearls and we knit them into the fabric of our lives. And then we take 2 more pearls, not pills, we take 2 pearls. My arm is now, because I'm raising it, it's now feeling, it's getting like a stiffness, a soreness to it. So we'll take our pearls of wisdom. We'll rotate our camera a little bit. Okay. Facing it. Okay. All right. Make sure you can see where my hands are. Okay. So where do we get our pearls? Our pearls come from our own alchemy. How we transform the energy of our experiences into wisdom. And thinking about how that essence is something that we value. I wonder if it's because it's like smooth and shiny, or if it's also because of the quality. Well, so if the needle isn't going through in that way, then we're gonna have to, if we're not able to go back in front in one swoop, then we'll do it in 2 swoops. Front to back and then back to front. So sometimes we have to give all our attention to ebbing in one direction, ebbing away, stepping away, and then giving all our energy to flowing through. Maybe not all our energy, but all our focus, which is kind of energy, but our subconscious is still doing a lot. thinking about, just those motions of ebb and flow. And then meanwhile, we're here in the present, and and when we feel into our bodies as they're grounded in the present, when I feel into my body grounded in the present, it's like I'm holding myself here, and in so many ways, like I'm holding myself here as I stream this video. I'm holding myself in the commitment to doing these live streams every day. And I feel like on the little micro, relative to that, it's like these red pins are holding these two materials in place. And the purple thread is like the journey of moving through it. Even if it feels repetitive, it's like these purple stitches, the tiny purple stitches, like, can you see them? See if it'll focus. It's not even focusing because the stitches are too tiny. Huh. Okay, well, I would say that there may be, like, if you're thinking of the metric system and whatever your relationship might be to that, my relationship to the metric system feels like, not even metric, also just like the inches and yards and stuff like that. Like, I'm thinking it's a 32nd of an inch, the stitches are. And my relationship to that is that seems like a tool to homogenize. a multiplicity of experiences on one hand. And on the other hand, it's a way for a dominant, delusionally supreme group to colonize. And so thinking about that, thinking about measurements and how measurements are relative to something, whether it be a universal system or the multiverse that, or the universe that somebody is within, or the universe that is within somebody. The stitches are like the size, the length of like a sticker bush prick. The prick of a sticker bush. And while I know that those are range in size, that's kind of the point, because these stitches also range in size. And how we can see how each stitch has a different it's a different step of the journey, and me being the person stitching it, each stitch I've developed into a different being. The being that I was a minute ago is not the same being that I am now. And so we can think about that. In terms of the journey that we're on. And so the thread's getting short now, and I'm going to knot it off. And tuck the tails. cut the tails. We will begin with a new thread tomorrow. It seems like we got about halfway around the seam. So let us now, coming up on the hour, so let us now leave Pipple in a place where they can rest in Grandmother's velvet garden. Oh, I'm now seeing that now that I'm stitching this seam down, that this part of the veil no longer can tuck inside of there. So what will we do? We shall see. Maybe we'll make a little loop for the netting to be wrapped in. Something like this. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I do want to remember this coming into the session tomorrow, so let us put a pin there to remind us. All right, that is going to be it for today. Everybody, thank you for tuning in here. Thank you for listening and processing in this plane with me. So let us release the elements of fire,